And for decades, newspaper political endorsing has pretty much been a given, really going back centuries to the 1800s, where the root of newspapers and political pamphlets were super partisan in their founding days. And then there's the whole history of big moments and endorsements. In 1972, the LA Times backed Nixon for president. But then after Watergate, the Times' editorial board decided to stop endorsing candidates in presidential races. And that is until 2008, when the Times editorial board urged readers to vote for Democrat Barack Obama, and ever since, it has endorsed Democrats in every presidential election until this week. The Times is joining the ranks of other newspapers like the USA Today and the Washington Post, whose editorial boards are also not going to endorse a candidate for the White House for the first time in 36 years. The Post's owners, billionaire Jeff Bezos, defending the decision, saying presidential endorsements create a, quote, perception of bias. The fallout has brought job resignations, subscription cancellations, NPR reporting that over 200,000 readers have canceled their subscriptions since Friday. It's also sparking a debate over whether newspapers or their editorial boards should be endorsing in the first place. And here to answer that existential question is Dylan Byers, senior correspondent and one of the founders of what is basically a newspaper/media organization of the future, Puck News. Hey there, Dylan. Thanks so much for joining us. There are some that see this and say this is just like billionaires scared of possible political ramifications if Trump wins, and then there are others who say, like, this is a long time coming. Why are newspapers deciding not to endorse, especially with just a week here to go?
Well, thanks for having me, Gotti. There's a very healthy debate to be had about whether or not newspapers should endorse. And at the end of the day, that's in the purview of the owner, right? They can decide to do what they want. I think the reason that this has blown up and become such a controversy is because of the timing, which was terribly mismanaged, no question. But should newspapers be endorsing? Look, it feels like something that we're used to because the New York Times has been doing it since Abe Lincoln, and the Washington Post has been doing it since Jimmy Carter. But the truth is that for a long time, the Washington Post wasn't doing it. And ever since they started doing it, they endorsed Democratic candidates. Same with the Los Angeles Times going back to 2008. Same with the New York Times going back to Kennedy. And that's not, the question is, what kind of paper do you want? In the first Trump administration, the Washington Post decided to be the democracy dies in darkness, resistance newspaper. And that was a very good business with progressives, liberals, people who weren't behind Trump. I think Jeff Bezos now is trying to position his paper as a paper that Republicans can buy too, which might be a sound business strategy in the long term, but doing it 11 days before the election is obviously something that has created quite a bit of a maelstrom and upset a lot of readers, and certainly a lot of Democrats and a lot of those fearful of a second Trump administration. So what I would say is healthy debate to have. It's a debate we will continue to have. But from a management perspective, this was less than ideal timing.
It's a very high-level debate, and yet, like, on the ground with reporters, there's always been this, like, awkward dance. For print reporters, I've had the same types of arguments and conversations with readers who, like, you have to explain, yeah, the paper's editorial board made this endorsement, but the reporters are still impartial, and that's the editorial board. They're different than what the reporters do, but, like, we all share the same masthead. It is super, super confusing. So should newspapers in this day and age be endorsing candidates?
Well, look, you can take I don't run a newspaper, so fortunately it's not a decision I have to make. Let's go back to the business calculus here. If you are Jeff Bezos and you own the Washington Post, you are looking at a business that after Trump left office started churning subscribers and losing revenue to the tune of $100 million a year. Maybe you've concluded that that's not the kind of newspaper you want to run, and you want to run a newspaper that actually caters to a broader swath of the electorate, that is not known as being firmly aligned with one side of the aisle. And maybe that sounds like a more sound business plan. So from a business perspective, does it make sense to not every 4 years tell people who they should vote for, inevitably tell people that they should vote for the Democrat, and then inevitably fuel the sort of perception that the media is entrusted? Jeff Bezos himself came forward and said the media has less, people have lower trust in the media now than they do in government, which is already pretty low. So yeah, there is a business calculation there. Now, from a moral perspective, from the perspective of the future of democracy and the future of the republic, do I think they should endorse? To be honest with you, Gotti, I don't think it matters. I don't think a newspaper's presidential endorsement has swayed voters, certainly in the Trump era. But I think it has done nothing so much as sort of perpetuate the notion that the media is aligned with the left or aligned with Democrats. It might not be a fair criticism. It might not be a fair interpretation, but that is what it has done. And I truly don't think you can make the argument that the Washington Post or the LA Times or the New York Times coming out and endorsing a Democrat really helps sways the course of a presidential election.
Now, I know you're not a newspaper owner, but I'm a big Puck reader. And I got to say, Puck seems to be as forward leaning as it gets. Could you ever see Puck getting into the endorsement game?
That's above my pay grade. I think we're more likely to sort of, recommend Italian vacations and martini recipes. But, if we did, I would say the same thing. I can't see it swaying an election. Look, at the end of the day, the thing that news organizations, media organizations can do to influence the outcome of an election is do great reporting. And if you look at all of the sort of the furor and the criticism and everything that's gone on in the past few days, at the end of the day, the most impactful thing the Wall Street Journal or the Los Angeles Times has done to influence this election is done great reporting. And there are great reporters at both of those papers, particularly when it comes to politics at the Washington Post. What they do in their reporting will be far more influential than anything their editorial board does.
Dylan Byers, and you didn't even plug your brand new podcast, The Grill Room, just launched, right?
I just launched The Grill Room. Gotti, I hope you'll come on and join us sometime. I can return the favor.
Yeah, I heard the first episode. Amazing. Dylan Byers, thanks so much for your insight, man.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.